Hello and a very warm welcome to this edition of Business Africa. I'm your host, Afolake Oyinloye. The top stories this week. What will it take for countries whose main activity is agriculture to become food secure? We take lessons from Senegal's groundnut production. The global COVID-19 shutdown accelerated the adoption of digital technologies in many African countries. How can this digital transformation be sustained? And we take a trip to winery in Johannesburg to understand the processes that contribute to the country's outstanding export record. Groundnuts are ranked 6th among the main oilseeds that are grown worldwide, with Senegal as one of the world's leading exporters. The groundnut campaign demonstrates the importance of the cash crop and indeed agriculture in driving economic growth and addressing food security crisis. However, in recent times, some socio-economic and ecologic factors are hindering its production. We have more on this report.
Food security is a challenge facing billions of people all over the world. This is despite the fact that agriculture is the backbone of many economies, especially in less developed countries. In Senegal, for instance, agriculture accounts for over 17% of gross domestic product. In Senegal's groundnut basin, for example, about 70% of the local population makes a living through groundnut farming, accounting for over 35% of their household revenue. Groundnut production can therefore serve as an effective avenue for income generation and job creation. The International Islamic Trade Finance Corporation has granted a package of 40 million euros in finance to Senegal's national groundnut company to help the country's agricultural sector recover from COVID-19. As far as the ITFC is concerned, since 2013 it has provided 7 lines of financing for groundnut campaigns for a total value of more than $380 million. In concrete terms, these funds are made available through the Senegalese government and the national groundnut company, Sonacos. This is to pay the farmers and allow the purchase of the peanut production. The financing shall cover about 45% of the financing needs of Sonacos to secure the procurement of 150,000 tons of groundnuts arising from the current harvest from farmers and to be processed into groundnut oil, animal feed and edible groundnuts.
We speak to Alikan Sancho, a financial analyst and the CEO of Rich Management. He joins us from Kenya for more on that story. Welcome to the show. Now, how can communities like groundnut farmers in Senegal improve their agricultural output and revenues?
You know, the challenge in Africa, everyone keeps saying we've got so much land that's available for agriculture that we could put to use. You know, Africa is seen as being a place where there's a lot of unutilized land. But I think the bigger challenge for us on the continent really is we have a lot of smallholder farmers. We have very small farms, so we don't have scale. And what we have to do is bring all these smallholder farmers together into a bigger whole. And we've seen many companies now trying to deploy and make that happen. And here in Kenya, for example, you know, we have a company called Twiga Foods, which is basically putting together small farmers, picking up the produce from the farm gate, and then selling it directly into the cities, and therefore earning a better margin for the farmers. So it's not rocket science, but you have to apply different skills in order to make our smallholder farmers more productive.
Now, what role can government play in making agriculture more productive and communities more food secure?
Now, Senegal is an interesting place because, interestingly, food inflation there is negative right now because of the cereal harvest. But there is a massive opportunity for these groundnut farmers to get better prices, to deliver better returns to them, and help them uplift their families. So I think what we're seeing in Senegal now is a deliberate attempt to do precisely that. And the government, I think, has got to make available, cheap fertilizer, because we utilize very little fertilizer as a continent. They've got to assist in financing farmers, because quite a few farmers are living hand to mouth. You get one bad weather event and they're out of the game. It's very difficult for them to come back. So you've got to create a safety net. And if you do that, you create a virtuous, positive feedback loop, which will improve livelihoods and improve production.
Mr. Sancho, thanks so much for those insights.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the adoption and the use of digital technologies as movement and association were restricted in a bid to stall the spread of the virus. Communities and authorities have worked around the clock to deliver critical services, including health, education, work, and even entertainment. In this report, we explore what needs to be done to leverage the opportunities that digital transformation presents.
The African Union Agenda 2063 and European Union EU strategy for partnership with Africa highlight digital transformation as being fundamental to economic prosperity, inclusive growth, and sustainable development. In an interview with Philippe Vogela, the Global Health of Business Development at Vodafone, explained that for digital transformation to take off, some aspects must be met.
Today, if you look at how things are in Africa, about 250 million people of the continent do not have access to the basic infrastructure that is needed. About double that do not have access to the high-speed infrastructure that you would actually need to get the best services available. If you then look at the equipment itself, a very, very large chunk of the population, about 500 million people, do not have access to tablets, laptops or phones of sufficiently good quality to benefit from the services that you should get. And then if you look at the services, well, of course, if you don't have the infrastructure, you don't have the equipment for yourself, there is very low chances that you will know how to get access to those services.
To address these gaps, Philippe describes reforming of 2G, 3G spectrum so that people can launch 4G and 5G, in addition to lowering the taxes on equipments like smartphones through which people access digital services. Like the pandemic has demonstrated, governments and communities can embrace digital technologies when the value they offer is clearly articulated. A case in point is Kenya, where an agreement was reached to adapt the schooling program on the digital platform so that it's aligned with the local program but accessible to way more people.
Ending with a lighter note, wine is often associated with festivities, and the biggest festival is just around the corner, Christmas. According to one of South Africa's wine buddies, VinPro, South Africa is the 9th biggest wine producer in the world and produces about 4% of the world's wine. We talked to a producer about the journey of wine, from harvesting grapes in Johannesburg to serving a glass of wine at a dinner table in any of the world's capitals.
In the heart of Johannesburg, an urban winery has emerged. This is Johannesburg's only winery. Jerakara's Family Wines transports grapes from South Africa's wine region to Johannesburg and processes the grapes in-house to make their 5 wine offerings.
I went back to university because I was working in an office and didn't enjoy it. Studied winemaking for a year, and then that was in New Zealand, where I'm born. And then I came to South Africa to do a harvest in Stellenbosch, which was obviously amazing and beautiful and everything else. And long story short, I married my now husband, who works here. So living in Johannesburg, and then 2 young children. And then when they started at school, we'd been making a barrel in the garage, bringing up grapes from the Cape. So then I had time, and I thought, well, why not bring up more grapes and make a little bit more wine?
This winery produces 9,000 bottles of wine annually. However, with COVID-19, production has stalled.
We do everything here, from fermentation all the way through to the bottling and labeling and waxing and certification, and the whole process is done right here.
With the festive season upon us, the owner of Jericara's Family Wines says they are booked out 4 days of the week. However, a lot more business is needed in order to see a strong recovery in South Africa's wine industry. Wandi Swandendo, Johannesburg, South Africa, Africanews.
It's been an eventful year for business in Africa as economies reopen amid an ambitious vaccination drive. Here's a quick look at some of the biggest business stories we covered this year. Nigeria launched a new digital version of its currency, the e-Naira, which hopes on improving cross-border trade, boosting financial inclusion and increasing remittances. Ghana has also been testing on its e-cedi as a new means of exchange. The Pan-African Payment Settlement System, PAPS, was launched to facilitate instant cross-border settlements in local currency, saving the continent of over $5 billion. And the largest climate change meeting of global leaders, Africa's highlights were to increase climate financing to $500 billion and the contentious debate to whether to phase out or phase down on coal production. And that's a wrap for Business Africa this week. On behalf of the entire team here at Africanews, allow me to wish you the happiest of holidays and an enterprising 2022. Thanks for watching and bye for now.